Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shane Shed YouTube channel. Today, just going to be doing some little electrical joining tips, just in regard to multi-core wiring on my trailer, because this little shitbag here decided to chew my trailer wiring. So we're going to rip that out and splice in a new section. Okay, so in order to do this job of joining up this multi-core wiring, we're going to need a few little things. So obviously something to cut the wiring, so side cutters, and we also need a Stanley blade just to cut all these outer layers off our cable. And to join, we're going to use solder this time, so we're going to need a soldering iron and some solder. And once it's joined, we're going to need either some heat shrink or tape to cover the bare wires up. And if you're using heat shrink, then heat gun. You can use a lighter or whatever. I just use the old heat gun. Obviously, you're going to need some more cable to join onto that section. We'll just neaten that end off there. And what we're going to do is, this is a 7-core wire. Rather than just sort of joining them straight at all this level, if we do that, then it's going to end up with quite a big bulky a join. So I'll just bare this outer sheath back. Alright, so we need to do that to both ends of our cable, and we're going to do about the same length on each one. Alright, so it's pretty similar there. Alright, now, like I said earlier, rather than if we join these all just at this end, then we've got a join at every single point here, and by the time we throw some heat shrink around or tape, whatever, this join starts getting really quite bulky. May not be an issue in some circumstances where you don't have to get the cable through any small holes, but yeah, that can be an issue. The other thing as well is whatever covering you put on this is probably not going to be as perfect as the insulation that's originally on here. So if you do get any rubs or whatever later on, they could short out against each other. So what we're going to do is offset all these. We may need to give ourselves a bit more length here. We'll see how we go. But we're going to, that's going to be our shortest one. Now obviously you're going to give ourselves a bit of room to bear this back as well. So we'll work around and we'll just make progressively longer for each one. And looks like we may just need to go back a little further on this. I'll just take that black wire back. Black one. We'll take about there. Yeah, so we've got a series of cuts all offset. What we'll do is I'll also take this one back. It's the same point. What we'll do is we'll keep that sort of length and just cut them where the colours meet up. So we'll just, and that way hopefully we should keep the lengths a little bit similar. Just a little bit fiddly. There's a blue there. Okay, so now we come to the joining part. So what we need to do is just bare back a bit of our wiring and try and keep about the same length either side. Now you can use some cable strippers for this, but if you're careful with the side cutters, you can do just a good job. Now, important to note as well, before you go join them up, get some of your heat shrink over that, and yeah, that way you won't have any issues. So what I like to do here is just fan out these wires a little, and you need a decent length here. So a lot of people will just join them, you know, like this and twist them together. Not ideal. I like to try and keep all this as flat as possible. So get about halfway between each wire. Start off with the first one, and probably need a little bit longer length than this actually. So let's bear a bit more back. Alright, so like I said, we go about halfway, and one half wrap around that first half of the wiring, the second half twist it around this half, and try and keep it as flat and as neat as you can. And that's quite a flat join, and you see, and from there we just need to solder each one in. Nice clean solder tip. This particular soldering iron is pretty low heat. It's really only good for this sort of small wiring really, but you just want to get a bit of heat into that cable, and you can probably see that'll just start wicking in. There we go, and that's all we need really. That's a nice solder joint. Now all we need from there for each individual one is then just get our heat shrink up over it. Now this is glue lined heat shrink, so it'll seal up a bit better when you heat it up. Now we just need to repeat that process for the remaining 6 wires. And look, second solder in, I'm already not following my own advice and not putting some heat shrink on. Alright, now as you can see, I haven't probably done the world's best job of keeping all these lengths the same, but it's not too bad. So now that that's in a bundle, all our joins are offset a little. It's not really going to add any bulk to this whole assembly once we shrink wrap it all. Now obviously if you can't get to either end, then you want to be throwing your shrink wrap on well before you join all these up, especially for your outer casing, but because I can just slide it over the end, I haven't had to worry about it. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you can see like the glue has actually melted in and it's causing and just helping seal that up. So I don't know if you'll be able to see, but this yellow one looks alright to me. But you can see the glue from the heat shrink has just sort of come out, and that really does well for sealing this whole lot up. If you're not going to have wiring exposed to weather, then I probably wouldn't get too stressed about the glue heat shrink. But if you've got something like this that's going to be out in the open, exposed to the elements, then yeah, the glue lined heat shrink is definitely worth the extra expense. So because I've only got the only glue line stuff I've got at the moment is these short lengths, what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat shrink this on and then just do a couple of lengths over. Alright, so there's the end product. So as you can see, that's relatively flat. You know, doesn't have any bulk in the center like we would do if we just chopped it all at one point and joined them all together. You can also see the glue from the heat shrink coming out, so that's doing its job to keep this whole lot sealed up, keeps the water out. I'm going to run this cable back through the trailer chassis again now. I'll finish this video up there now. Thanks very much for joining me here. I hope that you got some handy little tips for soldering 12-volt wiring together, especially when it's in the multi-core. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that caper, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers guys.